3/4 of the participants were employed, either part-time or full-time. About 42% of the participants did not have a stable income, while around 30% earn less than 4,000 ringgit a month, which is less than 1,000 USD a month. So majority of them have the anal sex, use stimulants and backpacks chemsex with another man for the past 6 months. 63% of the participants had 2 to 5 sexual male partners in the last 6 months. More than half of them use condoms with different frequencies, so it's not always they use it, they often or occasionally use it. As you can see that, 72% use crystal meth for 0 to 5 days, and 96% had chemsex and bareback chemsex with 0 to 5 months. Okay, so it's supposed to be 1 to 5 months. As you can see that 72 of them actually had checked themselves for sexually transmitted infections. Most of the time is because they have symptoms. So they will go and check for them. And half of them were diagnosed with STI in the last 12 months. More than 86% of them had HIV tests in their lifetime, and about half of them were tested positive. Only have 6.1% that's they not to test any HIV because they don't want to know their status. More than half of them who tested positive with HIV had undetected viral load count. Majority were currently seeing doctors, taking treatments and aware about PrEP for HIV preventions. More than 90% of them fall into the category of moderate and high risk levels of amphetamines usage. And more than half of them had moderate to extremely severe depressions and anxiety. So after the interventions, this is a result. I only talk about this substance use result because for the DAS21s and Eureka's both also not statistically not significant, although there is a reducing trend in the interventional group. But then at the same time, control group also decrease, so as I say that we are not, control group is not they receive nothing. They did receive WHO's toolkits, so that one also proven to be useful for them. The levels of the amphetamines, as you can see across of the time, why we did not use week 6, that is because, well, the one thing that we faced a problem was patients, after a month, they will tend to drop out. Not so tend to drop out, they tend to absent. Yeah, then after 1 or 2 weeks, they come back. So that's why our week 6 results is this consists of many missing data, so we found that it is not meaningful to actually analyze that. That's why we ended up trying to analyze the baselines and the week 12. As you can see that the group A, which is the the group A is the control group. The group B is the interventions. Let me just see. Yeah, sorry. Group A is the intervention, group B is a control. Yeah, the levels of amphetamines, you can see both also show reductions. However, group A, compared to the baselines, is actually near statistically significant. And yeah, however, when it comes to week 12, it was not statistically significant. The effect size for both also have of the Cohen value of 1.24, which is a yield from small to moderate effect size. All right, so So the study emphasized that this is like first of its kind in Malaysia to develop and evaluate and online interventions, combining the alcohol, smoking, and substance involvement screening tests, brief interventions with a Chemsex Care Plan to address drug use and HIV sexual risk among stimulants using MSM. So these interactive websites provide us various sources, including outreach supports like service linkage and Chemsex first aid, harm reduction informations, and these Chemsex Care Plan. However, due to the small sample size, as we can see that while participants in the both control and intervention groups show significant reductions in amphetamines over time, but there was no significance. But this is due to the smaller sample size. Our calculated sample size initially supposed to reach 250. However, we are unable to do so. So we only at the end able to recruit 154. And come to the randomizations, it go down to 142. Well, that is because, and also we have a low retention remained. Maybe it's due to participants, initially the incentive, was to get these, finance support. So they become the major motivations of the MSM in participating in this project. And second thing is the unstable mental conditions due to substance dependence and poor physical health may actually preventing them from participating in and committing to a study that require multiple follow-ups. So this one I did say that our target sample size is 226 participants. Even those we strongly push for our social media promotions. However, they have a little interest in the Chemsex-related interventions among the majority of social media users who were actively actually just seeking for sexual partners. So they use social media is want to seek for the sexual partners. They do want to actually try to get treatments for their chemsex. And there is after that, we have learned that, and then we also recommend to our funder, our sponsors, of this. So we learned that, ensure confidentialities and security of the data on the websites is very, very important. The website must use verified particulars is correct. Besides obtaining informed consent before assessing the interventions, so that we can actually gain the trust and the confidence among those this group of people who are actually they are quite paranoid. To engage the websites for harm reductions interventions. Another thing is we also have learned that choosing the caseworkers and training them what type of caseworkers is also quite important. Remember the first group that we recruit was actually a peer support group. So what happened to
long
these
set
groups is they actually who were struggling with the substance use. So eventually they were not able to cope with the task. And some of them they have stopped using, but then because of taking this task, it kind of triggered them. So they fall back to this substance use. So that's why and then many of them actually have these underlying mental problems as well. So caseworkers had to be proactive, so that it shortened the registrations to first contact durations to minimize loss to follow-up. Long-term plans is needed to retrain the caseworkers in motivational interviewing and other counseling skills and retain them in the project. Another thing is even those we use the social media to push our research. However, we probably push to a wrong crowd of people, community, because when they use the social medias, a lot of them they have the intentions to find sexual partners and not actually try to get treatments. So choosing what kind of is pathways to recruit the right participants, what we think is also very important. Of course, we would love to evaluate the efficacy of the online interventions for a longer time. With that, this is my team, Dr. Howie, me, Jains and Kenny, and then our founders, we have to thank our founders, the Global Fund, and the Cheerios, and our Malaysia Aid Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so we still have like a 2 or 3 minutes left. So any questions?
This is kind of hard, so I understand. And do you have any visual comparison to online or face-to-face intervention? And second is, please let me know the Chemsex campaign, the contents, or how many times during one session. Please let me know. So I try to use it in Korea. So.
Okay, right. The first questions. Initially, we would like to have hybrid versions, which is online and is face-to-face, especially when we want to train our caseworkers. One of the things why the caseworkers drop out was because during COVID time, we're not able to face them face-to-face. It actually enhanced their isolations. So when they take in I would say participants are all very difficult, right? So they felt that we are not supporting them enough. That's why at the end they drop out from our studies. Right. Of course, if you want to conduct these studies, I will advise use the hybrid form. That means face-to-face of the few sessions, and then also the online online sessions to meet up with your case workers, so that they will feel more confidence to actually conduct these brief interventions. Second one, this website is chemfundsupport.com. Currently, it is under this copyrights of this Malaysia Aid Council. After finish the studies, we give back the copyright to them. They are yet to actually activate the website. Yeah, I've been pushing them so that they can actually get our this online link up and going. However, because all this it still needs financial support to continue these websites, to maintain the websites, and then to fix the bugs over the times and all that. So currently our MSc is still not able to do that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, this is a very interesting study. I understand that in your intervention session, you focused on assist on the intervention on drug use. How about the sexual activities? Did you discuss about this in the session? And is there any outcome? I mean, like the safe sex activity improve or?
Yep. In the active brief interventions, right, we do not actually touch on this. We did not really touch on this sexual behavior or or these mental health. That is why this is one of our limitations. The reason for that was because during the COVID times, it's already very hard to recruit caseworkers, and then had to train them to give these counseling on sexual behaviors and drug use and mental health. I think it's too heavy for us and for them as well. So we just choose these three components. We just focus in one component. Our idea was if this research we have sort of a pilot data, then we can build on on that. This is our idea, okay? But currently we're still trying to find a sponsor to actually to deal with that. Yeah. However, the websites have these so-called the linkage of services. So they do know where to get this PrEP. And then inside that, we also have teach them what is PrEP, and that's why they will get some information on the website.
Hello, thank you very much, Prof. N. It's a very good research that you've done. My name is Faye Idris. I'm from University of Brunei Darussalam. So first I've heard about chemsex, and it is a growing problem now with M2M activities, right? When you did this research, I have a couple of questions about your research. How did you manage to get, first of all, ethics approval for it? And secondly, how did you advertise it in such a way that people would sign up to participate in your research? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first question is never easy, okay, so to get the ethic approved, especially we are dealing with the groups that's in Malaysia, they have no approve of all these activities. So MSMs is not approved. Once they get caught, they can be caught, and then they could actually go to jail. So you cannot blame, I cannot blame my participants why they were so paranoid, okay? But after months of changing the ethics here and there and all that, finally you get the approval. So you can see that, although I say that it started in December 2020, but our first recruitment of the participants was actually until next year, somewhere in October. Yeah, because we used nearly a year to try to get the ethic approval. Then the second question is yes, participants are paranoid, they don't trust you. So we use social medias, and that time we hire a social media manager. To promote our studies, and then that time he used Twitter to try to promote. In the middle of it, we also have mishap, some hiccups, because online they started to rumor that we actually working under the narcotic agency. So that is why we couldn't recruit enough participants. So the rumor was saying that we are working with the narcotic agency, and then we were there to actually to root them to be caught by the police. So they spread these rumors in online. Yeah, and that is why we have initially when we promote our studies, there are actually many people sign up, but they cancel their joining participations after this rumor came out.
Just a last question. How did you get funding for this project then?
It was actually funded by this global global fund and SKPA too. Yeah, they would love to fund this research, but it's just very difficult to do.
Okay, thank you. So we have to move to next topic. So next presenter will be Do Hun Kwan and Dai Jin Kim from Korea.
Yeah, I will present by on the basis of my slide. I'm not so good at English here because I haven't used in English for last 15 years, just in Korean. So my pronunciation is not difficult to understand because once upon a time I haven't very good at English. Gambling disorder and stimulant abusers in Korea is my title, and I'm a former president of a Korean Academy of Addiction Psychiatrists. In Korea, there are not so many doctors who treated illegal drug abusers. They don't like it. They are prison. They are criminal. They must be in the prison. We don't think they are a patient. They are just criminals. So maybe I'm the first doctor who treated drug addicts on the basis of hospital-based. So I present my slides. Yeah, this slide is very famous in Korea, Breaking Bad. Increase in substance use among especially younger populations, particularly adolescents. I will introduce my patient who is just 13 years old. 13 years old. In Korea, younger population, particularly adolescents, with a rise in case related to both therapeutic and illicit drug. In Korea, Concerta is very famous. Methylphenidate, something like methylphenidate is very famous for study. And the Concerta make concentrate and it will improve their test level. So in Korea, recently the constant abuse is very serious problem in Korea as a hospital drug. And the international legalization of marijuana appears to have contributed through the YouTube. In Korea, many, as you know, Koreans are very early adapter. They are very short-tempered, and they are very busy, easy learning, and easy forget. The international legalization of marijuana appears to have contributed to a reduction in the perceived emotional barriers to the use. They can use in Thailand. They believe I will use marijuana in this summer. Go to Thailand. They think Thailand is all legal. I think it's a misunderstanding as far as I know. And individuals who seem to lead successful lives despite their substance use, for example, Elon Musk, he uses ketamine. He said he uses ketamine. In Korea, ketamine is illegal drug. He will be in Korea. In case of Korea, he was in jail. It's criminal in Korean level. This disconnect, they are very confusion. In school, the illegal drug is very dangerous, and you don't have to know. Just once it's dangerous in school, but as you know, Elon Musk is very successful, and he said I use ketamine to 1 or 10 tablets. So they are very confusion. This disconnect between reality and media representation may be fueling curiosity and experimentation among youth. It's very serious, and I will change the topic. I will talk about drug abuse and gambling matter together. This is just the gambling. Surge in gambling addiction in treatment demands in Korea. In Korea, very medical treatment in between 2018 and 2022. The number of patients receiving medical treatment for gambling addiction in South Korea nearly doubled. Koreans hesitate the psychiatric hospital. They are in Korea, the stigma is if you go to psychiatric hospital or psychiatric clinic, you are crazy. You are not normal and stigmatized. But recently, just in 4 years, doubled. And among age groups, individuals in their 30s constituted the largest segment, but notably, individuals in their 20s exhibited sharpest increase in addiction cases, rising over 100%, outpacing all age groups. And this is a real sight. In Korea, Korea is very early adapter, you know? Alarming rise in adolescent gambling in the online shift to Korea. From 2020 and 2024, gambling-related counseling cases involving teenagers in Korea, it is very well developed in counseling of a primary school or secondary school. So teenagers more than doubled from 1,806 to 2,665. This proportion of adolescents identified as high-risk gamblers still very, very high. A dramatic increase, this is very important, a dramatic shift was observed in the medium of gambling. Once upon a time, they just used the card poker game, but dramatic shift was observed in the medium of gambling. Online casino participation. It's a very serious problem. As far as I know, in my clinical experience, maybe at least 50% of high school student, they have experience. It's very attractive, online casino activation, especially in Korea, the military, the soldiers and the military also, they also enjoy the online casino participation. Many internet baccarat. Korean is very short-tempered, so they don't like something to take much time. They very, very rapid, urgent, and online casino participation. Many internet baccarat among teens soared from 8.9% in 2020 to 59%. Many. While sports betting, sports total participation is now not interested, not attractive, just very, and in my opinion, there's no game addiction in Korea. They are very cute, and they are very good boy. If he is addicted to just the game, he's a very good guy. The problem is online casino, internet baccarat. We get money in a short time, very, very short time. And particularly concerning is the increase in addiction rates among middle school students, ages, this is middle school age students, underscoring the vulnerability of even younger adolescents. On this Monday, just 2 days before, 2 days ago, I will represent my patient. A middle school, second year, a male student from an ordinary family with father who is tax accountant. He's in tax accountant is Korea rather rich person. He ran away from home for 3 days. And for those 3 days, he used $12,000 in America, in Korean money. And when calculated in US dollars, he just spent $12,000 in just 3 days through internet baccarat. At first, he earns money and fluctuation. At last, just for 3 days, he spent away. And after that, he unricked Mariana in Korea, ricked Mariana, and returned home, his psychotic state. I witnessed the middle-class tragedy of a strict father, whose father is very strict, in typical Korean father, who only wishes for his child's success, and the child unable to meet those expectations. Very common in Korea, relentlessly seeking escape through online game and gambling and drugs. Next slide. The broader social scale of the problem, gambling addiction, South Korea, maybe, and originally our ancestors like mahjong, toba, it's very attractive when they are just agriculture. When they in winter they just enjoy this gambling. It's Korean tradition. Gambling addiction, maybe it's the prevalence of gambling addictions among South Korean adults stands at approximately 5.5%, roughly 4 times higher than in countries like Sweden. It's a very common problem. But they hesitate to go to psychiatric hospital. It's not a psychiatric problem. It's just my mental weakness. While you may be very surprised, while revenues from legal gambling bans such as Gangwon-land, they have no money. Instead, sanctioned horse and cycle racing have declined. Korean, don't go there. They just depend on this cell phone, and the illegal gambling markets are ballooned from an estimated of 70 trillion won in 2016, and now maybe it's over 102 trillion. It's very, very big money. Even think about the Korean budget. The expansion has been fueled by a rise in online platforms. In Korea, very developed. Everywhere you can do it. And increasing exposed use of gambling advertisement. Recently, I will represent our study. This is rather proper for this presentation. We've studied 380 methamphetamine users with Dr. Lee Hae-wook, and based on the absence of gambling addiction, among all participants, 59 individuals were classified as being risk for gambling addiction, moderate risk or problem gambling group. A significant difference in age was found between the two groups, with the gambling risk group being older on average. Males were significantly higher, and they are prone to unmarried and or not cohabiting was significantly also significantly associated with gambling addiction. Among ASI subdomains, the composite score for the medical status domain was significantly higher in the gambling risk group. However, no significant difference observed in other domains such as employment, drug use, or psychiatric status. Regarding recovery-related variables such as abstinence status, length of abstinence, history of psychiatric visits, duration of continuous treatment, and number of counseling, the gambling risk group tended to have a longer treatment experience, although this difference were not significantly, statistically not significant. Why? This is my view. It's just my old view. I'm just a doctor who treat the illegal drug abusers, many Korean drug abusers. This is my point of view. Why? Perhaps the most important virtue a human can possess in life is the ability to be content with leader. And in Oriental, in Asian person, it's very common and very familiar concept. What is called 안문지조 in Chinese letter, 안문지조 in Korean. The capacity to find the satisfaction and simplicity. Yeah, though, is to say, I've rarely seen anyone truly capable of living this way. You know? Perhaps in this fiercely competitive world, as you know, Korea very competitive. Just number one, only number one can survive. Number one, the winner takes it all in Korea. In this fiercely competitive world, such people, 안문지조 people, such people have already been weeded out. And those who remain are so-called workaholics. In Korea, 하구잡이. Workaholics, individuals who neurobiologically are constantly driven to stimulate their underactive dopamine receptors. Their world. So, in Korea, the very good virtue of 안문지조 is neglected, and this man is now a failure. In Joseon era, he is a very successful guy. It's our destination. He's our ideal man. But at this point, he's a failure. He's just a failure because he has no money. Go away. Next slide. Furthermore, in Korea, very, very rapid expansion of capitalism in Korea has led to widening gap between wealthy and the poor, fostering culture where financial success is highly prioritized. When I was a university student, the professor is very respected. But now, no. The professor is a failure because they don't get a lot of money. Money in Korea, especially money changes everything in Korea, especially recent trend. Every student who ranks in the admission exam, from number one to number 30,000, all apply for medical college. The reason why? Only money. They don't care about the patient, just the money. Because the doctor can, not so rich, but they are rather rich when compared with other people. For younger generations facing limited opportunities, they must be number one in the school. If not, failure. Number one, facing limited opportunities for social mobility. Speculative activities such as stock trading, cryptocurrency. In Korea, cryptocurrency is very popular investment. even the senator, or congressman, during their meeting in the parliament, he just don't care about the national affair. He just confined to his cryptocurrency, up and down. It's Korean trend. Speculative activities such as stock trading, cryptocurrency investment, and online gambling, including internet banking, have become prevalent as perceived shortcuts to wealth. No way to be rich. Just one way is you to be a doctor. In Korea, in Korean person. If your father is rich, number one, and number two, you must be doctor. And number three, this way. Okay, these behaviors align with, in Korea, you know, very short-tempered, and impulsive tendency observed in Korean society are spreading and evaporating later. I will explain yesterday my experience. Yesterday I visited Bangkok. My flight departing from Korea yesterday was delayed by 30 minutes. However, the captain told us not to worry. And eventually, they managed to shorten the originally scheduled 5 hour and 30 minute flight to 5 hours, arriving at the same at originally scheduled time. It's Korean. Korean is very, very fast. When they built the building, and not so many years, just 1 year, everything okay. It's Korean. They only use IV in using methamphetamine. They don't eat. They just like to IV, through IV. It's very faster. So these behaviors align with short-tempered and impulsive tendency. In Korea, very impulsive, you know, very, very impulsive. Short-tempered, impulsive, they are in a hurry. Tendencies observed in Korean society are spread remarkably. And humans, in my thinking, humans are born with primal animalistic instincts. But as we grow, we undergo process of socialization. I don't like socialization education. Lasting over a decade, we are not happy because of our prefrontal cortex. It prohibits everything. You don't have to everything. This process allows us to develop traits that may appear moral, self-controlled, and rational, even if they contradict our natural instincts. Our natural instincts are different. A successful drama is related to the sex, illegal drug, very instinctual. The successful drama are related to primal animalistic instincts. But as we grow, our prefrontal cortex just not helpful. They may appear moral, self-controlled, and rational, even they contradict our natural instincts. Let's be honest. None of us chose to be born, and life often seems to offer power, hardship, stress, trials. I'm in stress to speak in English. It's very hardship, stress, and trials. Then pure joy, no. Pleasure, no. Or fulfillment, or no. Very stressful is life. It means the dopamine dopamine reaction in prefrontal in nucleus accumbens when rats are seeing cocaine. This is dopamine system. Your dopamine system is here. Also, in your life, just confined here. But if you have methamphetamine, your dopamine will be here, there. It's another level. We are very unhappy. They are happy. Next slide. And it has only been about a century since humans began asserting concepts of human rights in earnest. But within the short span, rapid changes led us to take an intense interest to our own existence. 100 years ago, we are not a person. If our king kill all of them, kill all of us, it's possible. Maybe just 100 years ago, if the king of Thailand ordered to kill everybody here, it's possible. No human rights. So it's just 100 years. Our focus on the self, this sense of self-preservation or self-interest has only deepened. As we struggle to endure pressing demands of reality, within us, a desperate desire to return to our more instinctual self, return to innocence. We always seek instinctual selves, return to innocence. Hence, substance and activities that either stimulate the dopamine system or suppress our prefrontal cortex, allowing relax. It's not illegal. Music, drama, gaming, alcohol, smoking, golf, various hobbies are all byproducts of to increase dopamine and to down the prefrontal cortex. But it's not enough. And one simple experiment, dextroamphetamine can selectively enhance motivation of gambling. Gambling and psychostimulants share common neurochemical substance, as you know. It's maybe you know this experiments when you have nicotine and alcohol. The alcohol is more addicted. Alcohol, nicotine, morphine, and pillopone, and then you will be more happy. Thus, as we stimulate addiction, the activation of specific dopaminergic pathways also, they share the common pathway. Indeed, even the most fortunate may not live beyond 100 years. Living against one's nature, everybody, you, including me, living against one's nature, feels dreary and unsatisfying. In this context, drugs of gambling represent, perhaps more than anything else in human history, a selective return to one's primal return. In theoretical, it's a very natural phenomenon to choose the illegal drugs or gambling. It's a natural phenomenon. But the result was dreary. And so, as you know, what was is that longer this cycle, you know this, as from when I have seen many illegal drug users who have spent maybe 20 or 30 years in prison. I have met many patients who have stayed in prison for at least 12, 20 or 30 years. They seem to, when I see them from the outside, these individuals may appear like enlightened monks. Because their dopamine system was broken, they don't have any interest. They seem to monk. They are dokdo in Korean. They catch the Tao. From the outside, these individuals may appear like enlightened monks. I think they are monks, indifferent to everything. Just wondering, just no interest in everything. And they are devastated. Life becomes back home. Once gave us joy, no longer move us. They don't feel anything. They just said, I think they are enlightened monks. Even money, relationship, or beauty lose their grip. Drugs, gambling becomes the only remaining source of pleasure. And finally, and then not even that. So they are monks. They don't like a pillopon. This is my final slide. I think the treatment in Korea, very strong punishment. Punishment is very important, I think. punishment is very important. Most effective education, I think. Sometimes punishment is the most effective education. But punishment alone is not enough. They deserve proper treatment and a second chance. Legal punishment is sometimes necessary as a wake-up call, and motivate change. It's just, I think, the addiction problem is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a phenomenon. Beneath it lie biological, psychological, social, and cultural factors. Without understanding all of them, we will fail again and again in treatment, even when internal conflicts are resolved. If the addict's environment remains unchanged, if they are still battling depression, paranoia, or suicidal despair, addiction will be inevitably resurface. You must understand that addiction phenomenon as a tip of the iceberg. So we must treat this iceberg. You know, okay. I think, it's my suggestion. There has long been a belief emerging addicts in healthier alternatives, hobbies or passion, or could help them recover. But in cases of drug abusers, they don't like anything. They don't like anything. But reality, transitioning from extreme stimulation to something mild is incredibly difficult. You know, they enjoy the methamphetamine, but they don't like just walking or mountain climbing. Still, how watching a movie, I think, how watching a movie in a theater feels more immersive than at home due to higher concentration of dopamine. That's my hope. Okay, I use Consulta many times for illegal drug abusers because it may be dangerous. They are indulged in the gambling or other behavior. But when that case, the doctors need a therapist's intervention is very needed. And the medications like Consulta, in Korea, dextroamphetamine is prohibited, can increase dopamine in the frontal cortex, help patients regain focus, broaden perspective, and find healthy alternatives. I think Consulta, something like the dopamine drug, but in my experience, the Consulta is slow onset, about 12 hours, and side effects make it less prone to abuse. So I think in some cases, the Consulta will be very helpful in transiting their point. And this is my last point. All of them are the drug abusers. All of them are drug abusers, but they are successful. Although drug users, gamblers, often viewed as criminals, deviants, societal trash. But do they have truly lack any redeeming qualities? We must focus on their positive aspect. Positive. Good money extracts bad money. And as I've accumulated experience, I've come to see many positive traits. The drug abusers have many positive traits. They are creativity, intensity. They don't worry about in prison. A fearless pursuit of novelty and reward. According to Clonin's 4 core temperaments of human nature, these terrorists may score high in some, low in others. In my opinion, if it's redirected, their traits could greatly benefit society. All of this case, he is cocaine abusers. He is cocaine abusers. He is marijuana abusers, but he don't inhale. He don't inhale. Okay, these all 3 guys are related to the. In Korea, it is not allowed, but in America, it's possible. In Korea, they gangster. They look like gangster. He will be gangster. Okay, in America, it's possible. Take-home message conclusion. In summary, Korea is witnessing marked increase and shift in the demographic and behavioral patterns of substance use, gambling. It's very serious. In the military, they have a salary, 1,000 salary, if they live together, if one person succeeds or get money from internet baccarat, they all contaminated. And behavioral patterns such as gambling, especially online. Korean is very short-tempered. They don't go to Gangwon and Macau or something like place. They just need a cellular phone only. It contains everything for pleasure, and increasing diversity both, especially younger affected populations in Korea. And complex interplay of socio-economic and neurobiological factors driving these changes. Importantly, these trends must be also understood within the broader context of addiction vulnerability, where gambling, substance use, and digital dependence increasingly converge. They are all same phenomenon, phenomenon, but different showing. So it's rather a very typical word. A holistic neuroscience informed and youth-centered policy framework is no longer optional. It's urgently necessary. Sorry for my not so good in English. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you for your presentation. So we're running out of time, and the organizer said to me that the afternoon session began at 1 p.m. So we will finish this session around 1:30. Please, Marc.
So thank you to the organizers for inviting me here and to be speaking on the intersection of gambling, sex, and stimulant use disorders. And I have a listing of disclosures with respect to relationships with pharmaceutical and other entities. And I thought I would start with thinking about how the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual and the International Classification of Diseases has changed over time, particularly with respect to addictions and behavioral addictions like gambling. So in anticipation of DSM-5, a magazine in the United States, Time, had an article, What Counts as Crazy? And there were several controversial topics in anticipation of DSM-5, including what they described as the new abnormal with binge eating, internet addiction, and sex addiction. And so sex addiction is a topic that did not make it into DSM-5. Hypersexual disorder was proposed but not included, whereas, for example, binge eating disorder became a formal clinical entity. And how best to consider internet addiction still is debated. So what happened with gambling disorder? Gambling disorder was introduced into the DSM in 1980 as pathological gambling, underwent multiple revisions, including with respect to DSM-4 TR to DSM-5, but a big change that occurred was with respect to its reclassification as an addictive disorder. And so what happened with ICD-11 going from the 10th revision to the 11th revision? Gambling disorder, again, was reclassified together with substance use disorders as a disorder due to addictive behaviors. Gaming disorder was introduced and was similarly classified. Entities of hazardous gambling and hazardous gaming were included to address sub-disordered levels of engagement in these behaviors, to consider these from a public health perspective, akin to what is done for, say, hazardous or harmful alcohol use. And then differing from DSM-5, there was an entity that was included, compulsive sexual behavior disorder, and this was not classified as an addictive disorder, but rather as an impulse control disorder. So does this classification matter? It does in some jurisdictions, perhaps more so than others. So for example, some jurisdictions like France mandate all addiction treatment programs to consider both substance and behavioral addictions. So having gambling disorder and gaming disorder as formal clinical behavioral addictions may impact who receives treatment within France, for example. Now, how do these behaviors co-occur with one another? So these are data from a treatment center in Spain, which has focused for several decades on helping people with gambling disorder. And in screening for people for problematic pornography use, which may be considered one form of compulsive sexual behavior, about 1 in 6 individuals seeking treatment for gambling disorder was screened positive for problematic pornography use. And those individuals with problematic pornography use as compared to those without had greater severity of gambling disorder, more psychopathology, greater impulsivity, and more difficulties in emotional regulation. And the presence of problematic pornography use was associated with greater treatment dropout and hence fewer treatment sessions, and their treatment focused on cognitive behavioral therapy. So what are the relationships between gambling disorder and substance use disorders that prompted the reclassification of gambling disorder? We can see this at multiple levels with respect to the high rates of co-occurrences, the similarities in clinical courses, some of which we heard about in prior presentation, with high rates in adolescents and young adults, and lower rates in older adults. There are similarities in the clinical characteristics that are in part reflected in the diagnostic criteria. And then I'll focus on a bit on the similarities in the biologies, including genetics, but also neurobiology, and how these similarities may inform treatments. So what are some of the data about the genetic similarities between gambling and stimulant use disorders? These are data from the Vietnam-era twin registry cohort. So this is a sample of thousands of male twins, about 7,000 individuals. And by knowing the zygosity, whether these are identical or fraternal twins that share 100% or 50% on average of genetic material, you can model the data to estimate the genetic and environmental contributions. So gambling disorder is about 50% genetic in nature, 50% environmental in nature. Similarly with stimulant use disorder, but their co-occurrence is largely driven by shared genetic factors, suggesting that there may be shared biological factors linked to those genetic factors, for example, neurobiological factors. So from a clinical perspective, these are data out of a compulsory treatment program in China. And this looked at individuals who were being treated for methamphetamine use disorder. And in this sample, 45% of individuals met criteria for gambling disorder. And in most cases, regular methamphetamine use preceded the onset of the gambling disorder in 86% of cases. And then in modeling the behaviors to look at what predicted from a statistical perspective post-methamphetamine use onset gambling disorder, it was found that the number of methamphetamine use disorder symptoms, history of gambling among family members, age of first sexual activity, and non-planning impulsivity were the factors that jointly explain 24% of the variance. So it's this complex milieu of gambling-related, methamphetamine-related, and sex-related factors that contributed to the variance with respect to statistically predicting gambling disorder in people with methamphetamine use disorder. So in a separate study, in a separate sample, also out of China from a rehabilitation center, this looked at, again, gambling disorder among individuals with methamphetamine use disorder. And here, a network analysis was used to look at the specific symptoms that related to the co-occurrence and to the disorders themselves. So to break this down a little bit, one can see that there are some factors like MUD1 that links to GD2, MUD5 that links to GD1. And so MUD1 is time spent using methamphetamine. GD2 is increasing money spent on gambling, so those two appear linked across the condition. MUD5 is tolerance to methamphetamine, and that appears linked to preoccupation to gambling. And this preoccupation to gambling appears particularly linked to things like chasing losses and financial troubles. So it's not as if all of these factors are linked in an equal fashion. There are specific aspects, and by using approaches like network analysis, this may allow us to better understand these interrelationships and perhaps target phenomena that may help people if we understand what is linked to what. Now, from a neurobiological perspective, some of the most robust data linking the neurobiology of gambling disorder to substance use disorders comes from studies using the monetary incentive delay task. And so this task that has been used in multiple functional magnetic resonance imaging studies allows one to parse out the brain correlates, the brain activation correlates of specific aspects of reward and loss processing. And in this anticipatory phase of monetary reward processing, individuals with addictive disorders in general, but substance use disorders and gambling disorders specifically, show a blunted ventral striatal response. And these data fit with a reward deficiency hypothesis of substance use disorders and addictive disorders, suggesting at a biological level, individuals with these addictive disorders share a blunted response to the learned reward of monetary processing. And it's been suggested that there may be a more robust response to the focus of the addiction. So we've also been using different analytic approaches to try to understand brain activity related to specific phenomenon in psychiatric conditions. And one of these is connectome-based predictive modeling, which allows us to look at how brain networks might function in conjunction with one another to predict aspects, for example, of addiction like treatment outcome or duration of abstinence or other factors like craving. And this approach, which has a leave one out cross-validation modeling, is a powerful, robust, rigorous machine learning approach to understanding brain behavior relationships. So going back now 6 years ago, Sarah Yip took the lead on applying connectome-based predictive modeling to some data that we had been collecting in the Psychotherapy Development Center. And here, using monetary incentive delay task data and urine toxicology measures, we could look at how well brain networks and brain connectivity predicted abstinence, and both the positive and negative networks were statistically significant. We could then model the data to look at the canonical brain networks and generate heat maps or cool maps to look at how these networks interacted. So for example, one can see in the top left-hand corner, there's a bright red frontal parietal to medial frontal connectivity pattern that suggests that there is strong between network integration among those two networks that helps to predict cocaine abstinence. And so if we take these maps and break them down into a more simplified diagram, we can then think about how these networks interact and how these brain networks that are integrated to coordinate attention and executive control are segregated from those that coordinate salience, encoding, and reward responding to predict cocaine abstinence within treatment. And so some of these brain network segregations or ways in which they relate to one another, for example, involving medial frontal networks and sensory motor networks, will resonate with some other findings coming up in the remainder of the talk. So we've also used this approach to look at how we might predict craving. This is now using a different task. This is using a guided imagery fMRI task where people hear audio tapes to generate either appetitive craving states, neutral relaxing states, or stress states. And we found that using these data, we could predict craving across a variety of different substance use disorders, alcohol use disorder, cocaine use disorder, as well as with respect to other conditions like with respect to food craving. So we've also used this approach when using a different task. These are, again, a craving task, but using videotapes to induce cravings, either gambling urges in gambling disorder or cocaine cravings in cocaine use disorder. And again, the ways in which these heat maps can then inform how we think about affective automatic components relate to cognitive components to predict craving, it can be extracted from the data. And then to look at replicability, there have been not only the Garrison et al. Study and the Antons et al. Study, but several other studies looking at craving states in internet gaming disorder and other conditions. And we can look at then the extent to which these findings replicate across these conditions and across the different techniques that are used to investigate appetitive urge or craving states. And one can see that the more circles around the brain network, the more that it's replicated across these studies. So the extent to which the default mode is separated from motor sensory and the integrated subcortical basal ganglia responses seems to be linked to craving, for example. So in a more recent study that's now in press at Nature Mental Health, that was led by Gangliang Zhang, working with Min Zhao and colleagues, we looked at using this approach to predict duration of abstinence in methamphetamine use disorder. And so this sample involved 268 people recruited, about half of which were the individuals had methamphetamine use disorder, and about half were healthy control subjects. And this, the data were separated into a testing and replication data set. And so using connectome-based predictive modeling, we could predict duration of abstinence in methamphetamine use disorder. A number of brain regions, connectivity patterns, both positive and negative associations were implicated. Again, we could generate the, using the canonical brain networks, look at the degrees to which there was integration or segregation, and in this case, a lot of within-network integration involving medial frontal, motor sensory, and subcortical brain regions were implicated, but also this separation between medial frontal and motor sensory was implicated with respect to duration of abstinence. And what that looks like can be seen here with these within network red circles showing the within network integration. But again, this feature of separating the default mode from motor sensory and motor sensory from medial frontal appears to be relevant to duration of abstinence. And interestingly, it is not necessarily just a correcting of or normalization of how these networks are working. The duration of abstinence seems to go to opposite sides depending on the duration of abstinence if we're taking healthy control subjects as a baseline. And this suggests, one, that there is significant synaptic plasticity with respect to how these networks function. And this resonates with some studies that we are doing using a synaptic density marker in individuals with cocaine use disorder. So trying to put these pieces together as to how people may have brain states change through the use of stimulants, as stimulants have been shown to both have helpful and harmful aspects, will be important to understand better. So currently in Thailand, there is discussion of expanding gambling opportunities with respect to integrated resort casinos. There's been this year discussion of a 500 billion baht initiative that may generate 40,000 jobs, it's estimated. But there's also public opposition with respect to concerns about youth gambling, money laundering, and regulatory oversight. And perhaps these relationships with methamphetamine use disorder, as well as with sexual behaviors, warrant consideration in this discussion. However, some places in Asia that are not too far from here, like Singapore, have successfully integrated resort casino gambling by having frequent prevalence estimate studies and regulations with respect to potential barriers for people within Singapore to enter casinos. So there are examples of how this might be done in a way that considers the public health implications. So in conclusion, gambling and stimulant use disorders and sexual behaviors interact in complex manners, that there are shared genetic factors that may underlie some of the shared neurobiological underpinnings. Specific features of gambling and methamphetamine disorders may relate particularly strongly, and from a clinical perspective, these warrant considerations for intervention development. And as regular or habitual methamphetamine use may precede gambling disorder in many cases, the integration and expansion of gambling may have implications, particularly for people who have methamphetamine use disorders and related concerns. So I'd like to thank a large number of individuals, and thank you all for your attention.
So thanks for the excellent presentation. So we still have time left for 1 or 2 questions. Is there any questions?
Thank you for the wonderful presentations. Yes, I'm just curious, right? So with the meth users, right? Once you give these interventions, let's say try to treat their meth, do you see their gambling disorder also reducing?
Yeah, so the question was about targeting methamphetamine use disorder and treatment and whether this may help with the gambling disorder. Yes. And the data from China, individuals are in very controlled environments, so it's hard to say for sure because it's a compulsory treatment program. And gambling is largely illegal outside of Macau and China. Methamphetamine use illegal as well. And so I don't think we know for sure in those cases. And I think it's an area that hasn't been well studied. What we see in treating people with gambling disorder is that when we treat some of the co-occurring disorders, which in our clinic in Connecticut tends to be things like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. If we can target those effectively, we do see improvements in problem gambling severity as well. But it's in some ways an open question.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Professor Marc. And you said you need to, in the future, you need to more integrated treatment to integrate the services for addiction problem, you mean? So, behavioral addiction is increased in Korea, in the world, and then substance use problem is increasing, and mixed problem is, so we need to center, and then some treatment modality is needed to integrate the behavioral and the substance use problem. So we advanced more and more.
Yeah, so I think the question relates to how do we best integrate treatments across different jurisdictions. And I think this varies across different jurisdictions. In France, for example, they do integrate gambling disorder treatment into all addiction treatment centers. But we're currently working on trying to understand, for example, how different clinics and programs in different countries provide help, for example, for people with opioid use disorder. And there's wide variability. In the United States, as compared to France, we don't have that same mandate. So the reclassification of gambling disorder may not have the same impact in the United States. In the United States, we have largely insurance-based treatment, and many insurance providers do not cover gambling disorder. Where I am in Connecticut, we do have a state mandate that provides support for a problem gambling services program that is independent of other mental health and addiction treatment programs. That being said, our program works together with other programs to provide the help for people. So it's very variable across jurisdictions, and I think it's something that we need to consider from a global perspective as to how best to help people.
Thank you for your talk. It's very good. When you talk about, you said that there is a high comorbidity between gambling disorder and substance use disorders. I wonder if it any kind of drugs or only specific drugs, for example, methamphetamine, type stimulants, or cocaine, because I don't think for heroin users they would have a lot of gambling disorder.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the question is with respect to the patterns of co-occurring disorders, patterns of co-occurring substance use disorders, and gambling disorder. There have been some studies, so population-based studies find particularly high frequent co-occurrence between gambling disorder and tobacco use disorder. The National Comorbidity Survey Replication Study estimated that about 60% of individuals with gambling disorder had tobacco use disorder. There are some studies that suggest that contrary to, and I agree with you, I would not have expected opioid use disorder to have as frequent gambling problems. But a study by Himmelhoff and colleagues out of the University of Maryland in the United States, in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area, found that 45% of individuals in treatment, methadone maintenance treatment, had a gambling disorder. So it was particularly high. My clinical experience is that oftentimes people with cocaine use disorder is more prevalent in the northeast of the United States than is methamphetamine use disorder for stimulant use disorders. And people would describe to me where they would use cocaine, go to the casino, and engage in sexual behaviors. Those seem to go together, and that seems to fit a behavioral pattern that I see. But I wouldn't rule out that the co-occurrences apply to a wider range of substances.
Okay, so that's all for our session. So thank you all the speakers for excellent presentations, and thank you for your attending. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.